what is a money story?
Our money story is also known as our money blueprint, our money paradigm. It's essentially what makes up who we are with money. So whether we have a challenging or positive relationship with money, it all comes back into the money story and the meaning that we have given particular events or circumstances that then we attach to money. Money is so emotional. And so we think we learn in pictures and symbols. So part of that evolves into what story are we telling ourselves and are we telling everyone else about money? If money was a friend, what type of relationship do you have? Just write down 5 to 10 words. That's going to give you an immediate insight into whether you've got a supportive or maybe a challenging relationship with money.
What are the emotions that are driving those numbers on the piece of paper?
If there's an emotional underlying money story there, and more often than there's not, it will continue to sabotage you. If you've got a money story that is money is evil or that I'm not deserving of money and that everyone else is deserving of money or I don't value money, you're going to constantly sabotage yourself.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name's Dion Payne. I'm your host today, and with me is Suzanne Alexander. Now, Suzanne is the founder and owner of Mindful Finances, a certified money coach, money mentor and educator based in Melbourne, Australia. Suzanne helps clients to transform their relationship with money and build financial well-being by helping them to understand their money story, overcome the overwhelm that can be associated with managing their finances, and establish solid financial foundations so they can build wealth confidently in all aspects of their life. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Now, first up, what is a money story?
Yeah, so money story, if you think about it, as we grow up until age around 6 or 7, we develop our beliefs and thoughts around money. Now, that also then goes into our behaviours and the habits that we form with regard to our money relationship. So our money story is also known as our money blueprint, our money paradigm. It's essentially what makes up who we are with money. So whether we have a challenging or positive relationship with money, it all comes back into the money story and the meaning that we have given particular events or circumstances that then we attach to money. Like if we think about it, money is so emotional. And so we think and we learn in pictures and symbols. So part of that evolves into what story are we telling ourselves and are we telling everyone else about money?
Wow. So if we haven't had a very empowering money story imprinted into us as children, how can we actually go about rewriting that script?
Yeah, absolutely. It always starts with awareness. So starting to really explore what is the relationship that you have with money. And one of the questions that I love to ask is, if if money was a friend, what type of relationship do you have? And just list down, 5 to 10 words with regard to what that relationship is. That's going to give you an immediate insight into whether you've got a supportive or maybe a challenging relationship with money. The next step is, once you start to read through those words, having some compassion for where you're at. So often I speak with, clients, but even just anyone. And so often we'll talk about the fact that we weren't really taught about money, whether in the home environment or in the school environment. And so a lot of people are walking around just expecting. I talk about, we just should know it, but how do we know it or should know it when we haven't officially been taught how to manage money in a way that's going to support us? So awareness, start then looking at compassion, and then starting to reframe. So listening to that language that we're learning or using with regard to money. So how are we talking about money when we're talking to others is a great insight. And if you've got a friend, get them to, highlight certain words that might be coming up that could be impacting you or blocking you with regard to money. You could even record yourself on a device like your phone and talk about money and see what is actually playing out for you. And then starting to reframe that into more positive. So looking at it through the lens of, well, I may not have learnt that, but I am taking steps to actively navigate learning more about managing my money, about making money, about investing money, because we can get so caught up in just because this is where we're at, this is what it's going to be like for the rest of our life. And at our core, we have choice. And so the choice is you can choose to have a better relationship with money. You can choose to build wealth in your life. So that's where I would start in terms of really starting to unpack and starting to rewrite that money story.
That's so cool. And I loved what you had to say about examining what our relationship with money is like in terms of what kind of friend am I to money. I think that's really powerful because, particularly myself, I pride myself on being a good friend. So it's a really good reflection to say, well, am I being a friend to my money in the same way?
Yeah. And if we think about it, money is it's just neutral. Like, it's just a tool that we use. But the reality is money is really an expression of who we are. So we're the ones that give the energy, and the energy is through emotion. What emotion are we carrying with money? That is going to result in the energy that we give money. And that's where we have either a supportive or challenging relationship with money.
Yeah, cool. Now, where did you start? Because this is all fabulous information, but I'm really curious. How did you come across this in the first place?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting concept. I've been in finance for over 18 years, and I was an advisor for 8 years. And it was during my advising years that I really identified that clients were coming in and saying, this is what I want. And then it didn't really match up with where they were sort of heading. Sometimes they'd be sabotaging themselves with certain aspects, whether that was overspending or spending or making decisions that actually didn't really support them financially. And so I really started to look at the behavioural side of finance. That was my first step in. And then still discovered that, that was there still a gap. Thought it was financial literacy, started on the behavioural side. And then I really stepped into life coaching and thought, oh yeah, this is it. Then realized, no, we still needed to go further. And then I explored financial coaching, and then I've gone on to do, money coaching and neuro-linguistic programming and other modalities to really support and understand what is really starting to evoke the emotions, but what is playing out that are causing these behaviors and habits with money. So it's going back to the core belief and understanding where was that formed? What meaning have we given that? What's the emotion that we've given that? And more often than not, has nothing to do with money. And we just overlay it with money, particularly in our adulthood.
Yeah, I can see examples of that where, as an example, somebody may have been, as a child, they may have been, given lots of things and given lots of money, but the parents were absent. And so I can see that there's a whole set of stories that could come from that for a young child, thinking, okay, well, I don't have that connection with my parents, but money can fix that. But I mean, obviously, money doesn't fix relationship. So if the relationship and the connection isn't there, money can't buy that.
No, and going back to what I mentioned before, money really is neutral, but the reality is money can be used as a tool, and it can either be used positively or in a challenging way. Now, that challenging way is that money can be used as a form of manipulation. So whether that's from a child perspective of you have to do that, otherwise I won't buy you X. So it's sort of like a bribery tool. Into adulthood, which I can see that in relationships, and particularly where money is used as a controlling mechanism. But then on another aspect, there's a positive aspect to money in that, okay, great. So we learn as we grow up as children, and we might get some pocket money along the way. So there's a balance between being able to spend, there's a reward. Money has a natural flow of in and coming in and then going out. So it's understanding the flow of money, but are you approaching it in a way that's really supporting you or challenging you? And the more that we can really deep dive into where that has happened from a childhood perspective, because more often than not, those thoughts and beliefs have been developed by the age of 7, the more we can really understand the behaviours and habits that have evolved. So has it been used as a tool to manipulate? More often than not, if it has, what I see with clients is they actually shun money or push money away. They sabotage themselves more often than not, subconsciously. They don't really realize they're doing it, but they get rid of money as soon as they receive it. On the other side, you might have grown up in an environment where there was, maybe there was a lot of money or maybe there wasn't, but it was abundant. So you were never made to feel as if you were going without. It was just expressed in different ways. The other side of that is I've often seen money used as a tool to express love. And so that could be in the form of gift giving. And so if you were, received lots and lots of gifts, going back to your example as a child, it could be that gifts mean love. And so to express that in adulthood can sometimes be a real sabotage to a certain degree, because we can find ourselves giving gifts at the expense of our own needs.
So what strikes me with what you're saying is that there's so many different ways that our money stories can be harmful to us, and everybody has a money story. And then really our work is to uncover our own money story to then be able to have that positive relationship with money and to be able to achieve the financial results that we want.
Yeah, and really identify what the positive relationship is that you have with money, because there will always be a positive and negative. We are so wired to focus on the negative. So we're always, really highlighting, well, what is the negative attributes? Am I overspending? Can I not manage my money? Am I not earning enough? All of that we'll focus on. But what are the things that you're doing really well with money? Are you able to pay your bills? Are you able to have a life where you can have some fun with money, which means that you've got some play money, but you're also covering these day-to-day expenses? So really starting to find a balance, and I call it like the pros and cons list, really starting to break down where are you good at money and maybe where are you sort of challenged around money. But you're right, a lot of it will come back to your money story. And the more that we can start to bring awareness, that will start to provide us with insights on where we can start working with. Now, if you struggle with that, you might find that that's when you'll start to engage a specialist, because they can help you to go deeper. I know even with the work that I've done, I've engaged money coaches and other financial specialists and other coaches outside the money realm, because I know by working with someone, they can actually take you deeper. We'll always go to a level that we feel comfortable at. And I would suggest going to that level yourself first. And then if you want to, engage a specialist to go a little deeper.
Yeah, lovely. That's a great idea. And it's really nice to know that there are other money professionals and money coaches out there to help with this. I find it really interesting that maybe it's just my stereotype, but I feel like a stereotype of the financial industry is just very, sort of straight, like, what's the word? So it's just the numbers on the piece of paper without actually looking at well, what are the emotions that are driving those numbers on the piece of paper? And so what I like about what you're talking about is that it just seems very holistic and it could actually make lasting change.
Without a doubt. For most of my career in finance, it was that left brain logical approach. It's all about the numbers. Okay, someone comes in, they're spending more than they should be, or maybe they aren't earning as much as they could be. It's all about, well, okay, we'll cut your spending. But the reality is, if there's an emotional underlying, money story there, and more often than there's not, and also those thoughts and beliefs, it will continue to sabotage you. So telling someone, I was at an event recently and I was chatting to an accountant and I said, oh, well, how do you approach clients where maybe they're, sabotaging or their cash flow is not where it should be? And they said, well, we just tell them to cut their spending. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't work. not for everyone. And if you've got a money story that is money is evil, or that, I am not deserving of money and that everyone else is deserving of money, or I don't value money, you're going to constantly sabotage yourself. And so the reality is, if we can start focusing on looking at the precursor, which is the deeper money beliefs and feelings, which as a financial advisor, I didn't explore. And that's where money coaching is. And it's particularly certified money coaches will go in and explore what is the core belief that is stopping you from making more money or holding on to money. It might not be about making more money. It might be just holding on to money so that you can actually pay for your expenses and then start planning for the future. But what is actually going on at a deeper level so that you can actually step into a really healthy relationship with money and being okay to hold on to, manage, and start planning for the future as well.
That's so beautiful. And so when, let's say somebody works with you or works with a money coach, and they are at the point where they understand their money story and they have awareness around this and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to make a change. What are some of the key strategies that you would teach them to be able to manage their money well and be the master of their money?
Yeah, so when I work with clients, my main core program is the Money Mindset Reprogram. And essentially, we always start at the mindset side. And the mindset side is all about unpacking your money blueprint. What is the money story that you're telling yourself? We then do a deep dive into, well, what are the money archetypes? Money archetypes can give us real insight into what are the behaviors that we're displaying that might be supporting us and what might be sabotaging us. And I've got a free quiz on my website that people can go on and explore what is their money type. And then we start to explore, well, what do you value in life? And really starting to get deep into, well, what are the values that you want to be spending your money on? So often that with money, we're just, money will come in and then it just goes out and we don't really know where we actually directing money. Money loves direction. So if you think about money coming in and not having direction, and this is where we go more into the numbers, the practical side of money, if we don't have that, it's like having a leaky bucket. So money's coming into a bucket and then it's just dripping out. And suddenly you get, you look at your bank account and it's like, oh, where'd all that money go? And so if we can look at it through that lens of giving money a direction and then actually being able to give more purpose to what we do with money, and then getting really clear on, well, what is the vision that we're wanting to have with our money? So if we think about it, we start at where are you now? And then where do you want to go? And we're then filling in what is the gap? What's the structures? What are the strategies that you need to work with to be able to get your cash flow and your money management up to a point that you're actually able to hold on to more money, to be able to build savings. So then you are able to, pay your bills. You might look to be investing money, which you would then go on and do. But the other side is it's just starting to build this level of financial security and financial well-being that's going to support you. So the three structures I work under is the mindset, the money, and then the momentum, because we need all three to be able to create a really solid foundation with regard to money. If you understand why you're behaving the way that you are with money, then we can start building out the strategies and structures to support you. Whereas previously, as a financial advisor, we'd start at the structures and strategies and then wonder, well, why is a client sabotaging themselves?
Yeah, 100%. I loved what you had to say about vision and having a vision for your money and having a vision for your life. Now, I do know that sometimes couples have different visions for what they want for their money. So how do you help couples negotiate that? Because often if they're not on the same page, there can be a lot of tension and stress around money.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a big one that I see with clients that I work with as couples. Again, it comes back to that first part, awareness. And I would be starting to explore as a couple, asking each other, what was the money relationship like growing up in your home environment? Were you able to talk about money? Was money talked about? Was money talked about in a healthy way, or was money spoken about in an unhealthy way? Was there lots of money? Wasn't there lots of money? Because when we can understand from a couple's perspective where each party has come from, we can then bring a level of empathy and compassion to where their decision making is coming from. So that's always going to be first part of how to start this, because then we can then step into the vision, which is, what do you value? Because each person will have individual values, and then as a couple, there'll be collective values. So when we look at the vision of the future, it takes into account individual, what they're wanting to achieve in the future, and also what do they want to achieve as a combined couple or a family. So you're looking at 3 different metrics, and that's what you're then working towards. If it's all just towards the couple, then what happens is sometimes you can feel as an individual as you're not filling your own cup.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I mean, one of the realizations that I've been having is that essentially it's about self-worth. So in terms of the more that you value yourself, the easier it is to be financially independent. And part of that comes down to what I call self-loyalty, just knowing that, hey, anything goes wrong, I've got my own back. And do you know what I mean? It's not relying on somebody else to make decisions for me in that particular situation. So I think you're right. There is what do I want? What does my partner want? And then what do we want collectively as a couple? And I think there's a lot of freedom in that.
Absolutely. So that means that not only are you filling your own cup, then you're actually working together collectively to be able to, build wealth for the family. Because more often than not, when I work with couples, it's almost seen as an individual ability to build wealth. But as a family unit, you really have, a greater capacity to build wealth. So looking at it through the lens of building wealth as a family unit. Now, that may be financially, that might be non-financially. So if you've got one spouse that isn't bringing in money financially, they're still making a contribution. They might be running the household. They might be, looking after or caring for either children or elderly parents or whoever that is. They're still making a contribution. So not underestimating the power of non-financial contribution, but it's also looking at, well, how do we work together collectively? And I think this is the thing that I love so much about working with the relationship with money, which is it's a collaboration. It's team effort. So the more that you're on the same page, the more that you have a healthy relationship with, it's like you've got someone there. Someone's got your back. Money has your back by being able to provide you with choice, which enables freedom. And so when we can have that relationship there, but also within the family unit, then it creates a level of support. And we all want to have a level of support.
100%. And it makes me think of lots of things. My mind's just going, poof. But particularly in the field that I'm in around property, what we're seeing is that there's now a lot of people that are locked out of property ownership one of the statistics that I saw a little while ago was only 13% of homes are affordable to couples or to individuals that are on that are moderate income earners. So basically earning over $120,000 a year. Now, that's crazy because that's a 6-figure salary. So there's a lot of talk in the industry about working together in collaboration with, maybe it's 2 single people joining forces to buy property, or maybe it's looking at an intergenerational way of buying property together. So you've got aging parents and sort of a younger person, that their child, working together to buy property. So it makes sense to think about what you were saying before as being able to grow wealth as a family unit. There's a lot more security in that. And then, there's absolutely nothing wrong with choosing to co-buy with a party, sort of outside of your family. But just to know that we've got that option of building wealth together as a family unit. And I think that could overcome some of the barriers that we're seeing in property, being able to put as particularly as young people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would go back, especially where you're purchasing anything in collaboration, whether it's family or externally, start with awareness around money relationships, because it's really setting clear boundaries with regard to what are the expectations? How long are you looking to invest for? If you were requiring those funds immediately, what are the repercussions, and what things could you put in place to negate that? So there's still, and Deanna, I know you would be familiar with this, it's really being clear on when you come into collaboration, what does that look like? Whether it's in a family unit, whether it's with external, parties outside the family unit, being clear on what that looks like. But if it is an individual outside, what is their money relationship? Because one thing you don't want to do is go into, and I see this even in business, whether it's property or business, going into almost like a joint venture or collaboration, and they've got completely opposite relationships with money. And one party might be a really good saver, and they're on top of the bills and they're forward planning. And then the other person might be having a more challenging relationship with money. They never have money. And what can happen is that person at any time could go, well, I want out. And so there's that risk there. So the more that you start to explore that relationship with money and where you're both at, and then putting clear boundaries in place, it can create a really positive relationship. And you're right, the opportunity for growth is accelerated because you've actually got someone in, or you've got additional funds that have come in to allow you to invest in those opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the direction that this conversation is going in, because it's so relevant to lots of different spheres of life. We've brought in business and working with business partners and investing as family units and property and all of that. I'm really curious, and this is not to be specific to what we call the heterotypical relationship, but we do sort of talk. We do see masculine and feminine energies, and particularly around money. How is that? How are you seeing that as a money coach play out in terms of relationships with money, and how can we bring the masculine energy and the feminine energy together to make more collaboration and to make money work for more people?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. We as individuals, as human beings, we all have feminine and masculine energy within us. So when we apply it to money, feminine energy with money is all about the connection, the collaboration. How can we use that money for the greater good? So it's where are we placing that money? How can we bring more joy? How can we bring more happiness, more freedom, more security? Now, the masculine energy of money is the action taking. So it's all about the goal setting, the actions, the structures, the systems that need to be put in place to support us to be able to, even from an education side, what education do I need to do to improve my ability to increase my earning capacity? that sits in the masculine. So if we have the combination of the masculine and feminine, it's all about that harmony. We have a natural flow of money coming in, being managed appropriately and then invested. And then we have the flow out, which is what are we using the money for? Because remember, we are earning money to be able to live a life of, I call it our abundant life, and that's individual to each person. But what is that life that you're wanting to create, and where can you invest that money? I explore it through the lens of, investing in health, in relationships, in wealth. How do we invest that money so that we can live our abundant life now, but also in the future? So feminine and masculine energy works really well together. Feminine energy, when someone is very much in their feminine energy, it usually results in a lack of trust in themselves. And so one of the things to focus on is building more self-trust, particularly around how you work with money. And that, that could be surrounding yourself with people that are, really good money managers, working with coaches that can support you, financial advisors, financial specialists. One of the things with the feminine energy, when you're just in that focus of what can I do with the money, it's not really focused on holding and planning for the future. What are the systems and structures to support me? So building wealth just when you're sitting in feminine energy can be very difficult. You can build wealth quite sustainably and substantially just in masculine energy, but usually there's not a lot of fun in it. So you have lots of money, but you don't have the relationships. You don't have those, more, emotional needs being met, because it's been so driven by I have to have this money, I have to have this money, without the fun along the way. And fun doesn't mean I've got all of the, I've got the boat and I've got the fancy cars and I've got, all of these external things. It comes back to how is it making you feel? And if you don't feel good and you don't have those close connections and relationships because it's been at the expense of just sitting in masculine, then you've just denied yourself a really valuable part of living entirely and stepping entirely into your abundant life.
That is beautiful, Suzanne. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Now, we are coming to the end of the interview, and I know that I've got a lot out of this interview. I'm sure other people will have as well. So for anybody that would like to work with you or dive more deeply into the work that you do, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can jump on my website, mindfulfinances.com.au. I also post regularly on social media, more so on Facebook under Suzanne Alexander, or Instagram, mindful_finances, and also LinkedIn. So I'm always sharing, extra tips and insights on the social media. You can also join or subscribe to my newsletter. That will also give you insights into, more around the psychology and behaviour of money. But ultimately, if you go to my website, you'll be able to explore, what are the services that I provide. And also, if you would like to jump on a free complimentary call, you can do that as well and book through the website.
Oh, fantastic. And I remember you saying that you've got a workbook about money story coming as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm also going to be sharing for the audience a workbook that you're going to be able to start exploring your relationship with money. So have a look at the link that Dion, I'm sure you're going to share, and start there and just see where you're sitting at with regard to your relationship with money, identifying those feelings and emotions that might be coming up. What are those thoughts and beliefs? And really leaning in and just exploring, where is my relationship with money?
Great. This has been such an insightful interview. And I also think that there's just so much more to explore. I'd love to have you on as a guest again in a later episode. And I just feel that we can dive so much deeper.
I'd love to. Thank you, Dion.
Wonderful.